Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. We're doing a full moon horoscope for the full moon in Gemini, which is happening on Monday, November 27, 2023 at 4:16 a.m. Eastern time. This is happening at 4 degrees and 51 minutes of the sign of Gemini. We're going to jump into just general overall themes, the aspects, and what you can expect with this full moon in Gemini. First and foremost, we know that a full moon is when we have an exact opposition with the sun and the moon. So this is like the climax of the lunation cycle. This is when the energy is the most prominent, it is the most ramped up, and you can expect everything to come to a culmination point. This is in the height of Sagittarius season. The opposite sign is when we have the full moon of that said sign. So with this full moon in Gemini, first and foremost, it is happening in the first decan of both Sagittarius, the sun, and the moon in the first decan of Gemini. The first decan of Sagittarius is ruled by planet Mercury, and it's also represented by the Eight of Wands tarot card. So this is indicating swift forward movement. Sometimes can indicate being kind of scatterbrained, but it's very quick moving, fast moving energy, especially being ruled by planet Mercury. That being said, Gemini is ruled by planet Mercury, but the first decan of Gemini is ruled by planet Jupiter. It is also represented by the Eight of Swords tarot card, which can indicate us being trapped in regards to our minds, but it's self-imposed limitations of the mind. So there's something here about moving too quickly in regards to something in the Sagittarius and Gemini areas of our chart, and being trapped in the mind in regards to which direction to take or which steps to take in moving forward. Now, with those things aside, this full moon is, I'm not going to say it's going to be the easiest full moon. Gemini full moons are kind of tricky just because it's an air sign. It's ruled by Mercury. And when we have a culmination of lunar energy in a Mercury ruled sign, there is going to be some confusion with the mind and with our emotions, or with how we are emotionally navigating situations in our personal lives. Look to your birth chart where this full moon and where the sun is at to get more context on how it is happening and how it is playing out in your particular life. Just keep in mind, you can't just take one particular planet's transit and get the full picture. You have to take the whole entire chart and the whole entire transit chart, as well as progressions and solar returns, lunar returns, etc. You have to take all of those things into consideration to see how things are playing out, particularly for your personal chart and your life. Jumping into the aspects, so one of the most important aspects I want to touch on is the opposition with Mars. Mars and the sun are going to be conjunct, but this full moon is in opposition, a 2-degree orb. That means the sun is 2 degrees away from Mars. We did have the Mars and the sun conjunction just last week. So this Mars and the sun conjunct, which is opposing this full moon in Gemini, highlights on irritability, emotional volatility, to say the least. Also being aggressive, arguments, accidents, especially desires, and fighting, especially in our interpersonal relationships. There could be more of a tendency for freak accidents, especially with this, I don't know, this fast forward moving energy that we have, especially from Gemini and Sagittarius. Both of them are about, they're mutable signs and they move very fast. Gemini is ruled by Mercury and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So there's like an expansive energy in regards to that polarity. So I don't know, just be careful if you're like out there on the road, you're traveling, be especially careful with traveling, whether that be just to and from work or if you're going on a long distance vacation. Be extra careful in regards to travel and how you're navigating your travels. Just be extra safe and cautious, because there could be tendencies for not only freak accidents, but also fights with other people. And I don't know, I just, for some reason, intuitively, I am getting to be careful with travel in whatever capacity that relates to you. Another really important aspect to touch on is the square to Saturn from not only the sun and Mars, but also the moon. So this makes a T-square, with Saturn being the outlet planet, and Saturn is at 0 degrees of Pisces, just went direct at 0 degrees of Pisces. So first and foremost, with Saturn squaring the sun and Mars, this is a restriction of our ego, our sense of life, our sense of vitality, our sense of energy. We could be feeling very just lethargic, not very motivated, not really willing or wanting to execute things that need to get done for our progression forward in whatever capacity that is for you. Look and see where Sagittarius is in your chart. But that being said, this can also lead to feelings of depression, pessimism, apathy, and just not feeling that light of life, not feeling energetic, just feeling somewhat depressed and ho-hum. So definitely don't avoid any tasks that need to be performed during this full moon or around the time of this full moon, because if you can push through that lack of motivation and that apathetic feeling or the depressed feeling that you're having, the results in the long run are going to be extremely beneficial to you. That being said, we also have this full moon squaring Mars, which can even heighten on that emotional volatility or impulsivity. This full moon definitely highlights impulsivity. So be careful with taking risks or not thinking things out clearly. I would just refrain from making any impulsive decisions entirely during the time of this full moon, a couple days before and a couple days after, because the tendency for things to go wrong if we're acting impulsively during this full moon, it's very much heightened. So just be careful with that. Don't make any rash decisions and don't do anything you wouldn't normally do. Just ask yourself if it's something that is aligned with you spiritually, especially with Saturn at 0 degrees of Pisces. Your spiritual integrity is going to be pivotal in navigating any challenges that are going to be occurring for you around the time of this full moon. The moon is also trining to Pluto, which is at the end of Capricorn at 28 degrees. It is a 6-degree orb, but this is just highlighting on our intuitive abilities and the ability to get to the bottom of things in regards to the Capricorn and the Gemini area of our chart. It is an out of sign trine, but that being said, the potency of Pluto can really add an extra layer of oomph to this full moon. There's also aspects from Pluto and Venus and the South Node, so we'll get into that in just a moment. But that being said, there could be something in regards to Gemini and Capricorn in your chart that you can receive psychic or intuitive downloads from in regards to how to power through something, or any challenges that you have been having in those areas of your chart can be worked through with the utilizing of that trine aspect. The ruler or dispositor of this full moon is, of course, Mercury, and Mercury is in detriment in the sign of Sagittarius at 24 degrees. Mercury is making a square over to Neptune, and Neptune really square Mercury, it distorts everything in regards to not only our mind and our intellect, our communication, it's logical thinking. You're not going to be able to think your way through anything right now. And that is why that decan where the full moon is at is ruled by the 8 of Swords tarot card, because you're going to be trapped into thinking you can think of a solution to problems you might be facing at this time. You're not going to be able to think of a solution. Your solutions are going to come from your spiritual integrity, especially with Saturn and Pisces being the outlet to the T-square. That being said, that square from Mercury and Neptune, there is going to be communication issues. There's going to be logical mind thinking issues. You're not going to be able to get through any of your challenges or any issues that you're having in Gemini, Sagittarius, or Pisces areas of your chart, because that's where Neptune is at the end of Pisces at 25 degrees, and you're not going to be able to think your way through it. Neptune blurs the lines of everything, especially because Neptune is in retrograde and slowing down to station. Neptune has been retrograde most of the year. Neptune retrogrades for 6 months at a time, and especially when Neptune is stationed and not moving, that blurry energy that we feel during Neptune retrograde is intensified even more so. So it's more of the shadowy side of Neptune energy. So you're not going to be able to think your way through things. The only way through things is through your spiritual integrity, your intuition, and your psychic abilities. Other aspect that I wanted to touch on for Mercury, Mercury is trine the North Node, which makes it sextile the South Node. There is a 2-degree orb for this aspect. That being said, I think if we utilize Mercury in Sagittarius has a very optimistic outlook on things. So if we can utilize that optimism in regards to ourselves as opposed to our relationships, relationships are very much heightened during this full moon because of the South Node and Venus conjunction we will get to in just a moment. But that being said, with Mercury, which is sextile to the South Node, it's about learning from past relationships and situations, but that trine to the North Node is really utilizing and capitalizing on ourself and what is best for us. So that's combining our spiritual integrity, our spiritual mission, and our purpose in regards to where we're going and what we can do for ourselves. It sounds kind of like a selfish energy, but if you can live with your spiritual integrity, it's really not selfish. It's really just about doing what's in alignment for you. Venus will also be in quincunx or in conjunction to Uranus and Taurus, and this is a very destabilizing energy in regards to mostly love. It can be our money as well, but Venus is coming to a conjunction with the South Node, so there is a highlight on relationships. Relationship themes from the past are most definitely going to be brought up around this full moon and while this full moon plays out, but that in conjunction or quincunx over to Uranus in Taurus is really capitalizing on impulsive desires, sex, drugs, going outside of relationships, or just, shocking things happening in our relationships. Definitely avoid doing anything irrational or impulsive to do with desire, sex, money. Avoid impulsively investing your money or spending your money. Be careful with your finances right now too. But that being said, getting back to Venus conjunct the South Node, past relationships might pop up. You might actually have a actual person from the past pop up in your inbox or send you a text message or call you or show up at your house. That being said, if that's not the case, there is going to be themes or reminders or synchronicities from past relationships that you're meant to move through and learn from, not necessarily revisit. So take what resonates for you personally. Memories could arise or resurface, or wounds and shadows that need to be worked through and brought up, and that is exactly why these things are surfacing with Venus conjunct the South Node. Venus conjunct the South Node is not asking you to continue to revisit or give those things a try again. It's bringing those themes up so that you can bring them up and out, and so they're not stuck in your subconscious and your shadow anymore, and you can move forward with the North Node in Aries to your personal spiritual integrity. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this full moon in Gemini. There's lots of relationship issues and themes that could be brought up during the time of this full moon. It could be a little hostile with communication, travel. Just keep in mind to stay grounded and stay grounded into your spiritual mission, your purpose, and your spiritual integrity, and that will be your safe haven during this full moon in Gemini. So yeah, if you guys want to book personal readings with me, you can message me on any platform, and happy full moon in Gemini. I love you.